Coming up next is our first speaker session of the day on the topic executive presence. What is it and why should I care? In this session, our speaker and the IT executive coach and advisor of ITeffectivity LLC, Mary Patry, will explore the exciting world of new business models, innovations, and technologies. Let's join Mary as she takes a deep dive into what's the real meaning of executive presence and what it is and why everyone should care. Let's welcome Mary to the stage.
All right. Executive leadership. Who in here is in a leadership role of some sort or other? Awesome. Who disagrees with the factors that make your job a big job? Is there anything on there that you see that doesn't affect you? Speak up. Remember, this is interactive. Okay? I'm not seeing any hands. I'm not hearing any voices. So I'm going to assume that you all agree that these challenges affect you pretty much on a day-to-day basis. You're dealing with technology changes and technology demands, all the way down to those end users or those customers who are maybe not adapting to the use of the technology as much as you would appreciate. And then, of course, in between is always, market factors and budget. So those are very real pressures. And sometime maybe you're like me, where you wonder, why did I do this again? But it's also a position of fantastic influence. We control our own lives. We end up influencing many people, depending on if you are the CEO of your own company or you're heading the technology department in your company. I'm going to make it more of a positive statement. There is no other level of a role that has more influence than the CEO of a company as well as the head of IT, because you cross all the other functions within your organization, be it a small company where you do it all to a very large company where you have to interact with a lot of different functions. So really the field of influence that you have kind of boils down into 4 different quadrants: the team, the stakeholders, the technology, and the processes. All 4 are equally important, but we're going to have to save the processes and the technology for another day because I've only got 30 minutes. We're going to talk about the team and the stakeholders and how you as an executive leader have the capability to influence those fields of influence. First off, I'm going to back you up a little bit to help to talk about a little bit how we learn. Has anyone ever seen the S curve, the learning S curve? Has anyone ever heard of it? Super. It comes out of my brain just had a brain fog. But around the 1990s, where a researchist kind of brought it to bear. But Whitney Johnson, one of my favorite leadership gurus, is the first person who applied it to the way we learn. And through this all is that when we first start on that S curve, it's a kind of an exciting time. You might be in a new job or just out of school. And then as you move up to the S curve and you become I'm actually going to move it forward a little bit, where you end up becoming that subject matter expert. Where you learn the most is on that upward curve. It's the most exciting time of your career. When you're sitting on the top of that curve and that subject matter expert, if you stay in that position too long, you have the risk of falling off the curve and life becomes boring. You're no longer motivated, kind of like, why am I getting up in the morning? Well, the thing is, as a leader, it is our responsibility with our team members to know where they are on their learning curve so that we can help them help themselves. When is it time to start a new curve? How is that relevant to executives? Because we have the same S curve. And a lot of times we don't practice self-care for ourselves. This particular leadership skills journey that I have on the table right now on the board is really relative into people that work in I'll call a corporate technology organization. You start out in a role of being an administrator, a technical function, as you move up the ladder into a leadership, directorship, and to the CIO, which is the top of the department, or the CTO, and even then moving on into being the CIO, the leadership skills become much more important, and the technical skills make a reverse. We always have to have leadership skills. We always have to have technical skills, but our hand-on capabilities of the technical skills when we rise up into the higher levels becomes less influential. I like to call leadership skills not soft skills. I really don't like that word. I like to call them sustainable skills, because those skills will take you wherever you go. They are with you for the rest of your life. And when I'm working with executives, helping them to understand where their gap is between their technical skills and their leadership skills and what is getting in their way, we spend a lot of time in that particular area. I'm going to step back right here. Is the technical leader career ladder is a really interesting perspective of the way we are looked at by the business functions or by our stakeholders and customers. In order to be a technical leader has to have that credibility. You have to have that functional knowledge in order to perform the role. As you advance in your capabilities and you start being more transformative and having a heavier level of influence, that's where a lot of people end up getting stuck, is right there on that orange step of the ladder. In order to move up into that collaborative and the strategic versus going all the way up to the innovative and executive level, those are high hills to climb. Take a moment to think about where you are and the people who report to you are on their own technical leadership journey. And what is it getting in their way of moving up to the next level of their career ladder? Through my, I was a IT leader for, I hate to say it out loud, 35 years, where I was an IT practitioner and executive leader. I left corporate America in 2013 and formed my own consulting company advising CIOs and technology company leadership. Over those 10 years of coaching and advising, I have really found three fundamental areas that get in the way. The very first one is how you show up as a leader. The second one being aligning your vision, with the stakeholders. What are your stakeholders needing versus what your vision is looking for to them? And then, of course, the last one is managing talent and leading through change. Managing talent and leading through change is particularly troublesome these days. In the United States, depending on the month, we have somewhere between 250 and 300,000 open technology positions for information technology. The question I ask is, how are we going to fill those roles? And even with all the layoffs that you're hearing about, a lot of recruiters are thrilled to death about those layoffs because now they have some people to target. So all three of these obstacles are extraordinarily critical in the role that you play in being that I'll call influential leader. So what are the, how do I back up here? It didn't do my automation. All right, I'm gonna just fake it then. One of the things is I like to start here is really who you are. If you were in our panel session that I was on yesterday, we have blind spots. Sometimes when we look in the mirror, we think we are something that we are not. We see ourselves as maybe being more or less than what the world is seeing us at. And that's one of the things I love doing with executive leaders, is helping them to see how they are showing up in what comes up regularly over the last 10 years is, when I interview heads of companies in support of the people that I'm coaching, what do you need out of so and so? And well, I need them to have a little more executive presence. Well, what is that? What does that mean to you? How would you know that they're showing up executive presence? And the answer I consistently get, oh, I know it when I see it. You know, that's not very helpful. I need a little bit more. So about 7 years ago, I came across a tool that helped me to work with executives on measuring executive presence in the eyes of the beholder. So first off, we have to understand the executive present, what it means. And I love this description because it's all encompassing. Executive presence, the qualities of a leader as viewed by others that engage, inspire, align, and move people to act. You know, we could be the smartest person in the room. And trust me, I have a lot of technology leaders believe they're the smartest people in the room. And they are the answer to all who haven't the capability to inspire the teams under them. We are not one man shows or one woman shows. We need the team. One of my favorite mantras: take care of your team and they'll take care of you. So what is executive presence? Executive presence is actually comprised of 3 dimensions: character, substance, and style. On the sheet you have in front of you, you'll have those descriptions. So I'm not going to sit here and read them to you, but I'm going to give you a little my perspective that is those characteristics that we develop as very small children, babies. I contend it comes through on our DNA. If any of you have children or grandchildren, you will know what I mean. There will be times where you'll see that grandchild and say, oh my God, that's my mother. Or, oh my goodness, how did he pick that up so early? He's acting just like his dad, type of thing. So we bring through our basic characteristics at a very young age. They are learned through observation. And so for parents and grandparents, if you don't think the kids notice everything you do and say, you're fooling only yourself. Substance is the knowledge that we gained a little bit later in life, certainly by college, university level. I contend by the time that you start working, be that 12, 14, or 18. It's in the workplaces where you gain the majority of the substance, your knowledge, your subject matter expertise, that learning curve that I shared a little earlier. Now, your style. The style is really interesting because that's the way you show. It is not how you wear your hair or the brand of clothing you buy. It is the way you present yourself. It's how people feel about you. Of these 3 dimensions, and by the way, style is the most easiest to tweak. Probably not surprising. I could go work with a coach to help me change the way I stand or the way I behave easier than I can changing my core character. Core character can be tweaked, but it's a lot of work and you really have to do it. It's like a habit. So between the 3, those are the dimensions that make up the executive presence. And of those 3 characteristics, there are facets across all 3 of them that is something that we will assess against in the program that I told you about. Authenticity, integrity. I can't read my writing. Concern, resonance, as well as humility. In our substance category, you will see practical wisdom. You can see how that's something you've gained as you're learning through it. The confidence. So, the more confident you are of the wisdom that you have. Your composure. There's where resonance is. Restraint. That was restraint on the other. Vision. And then on style, it is your appearance, but that should be demeanor. And I'm working to get that word changed to demeanor because it's the way you present yourself. Do you come into the room and sit at the back of the room, or do you sit at the table? And the way you present yourself, it is the way you react in situations. The next 3 are my favorite 3: intentionality, inclusiveness, and interactivity. The 3 I's, I call that, they go really well together, and I'll share a little bit more about that in a minute. And the next one is assertiveness. Assertiveness, not aggressiveness. Now, the interesting thing with these facets is that they don't stand alone. I think you would be able to see how my ability to demonstrate my practical wisdom could be stilted if I am overly have too much humbleness. If I have too much humility and I hold back sharing my practical wisdom or my vision, it will be perceived to be that I don't have vision or practical wisdom. If I am not resonating, with folks, if I am not spending the time and interacting, it could be perceived that I'm not inclusive. It will, if I overuse my practical wisdom, I can also fall into really messing up those 3 I's. I know that one because I did it. When I ended up getting certified in this program, I used my last full-time role team in order to assess me. Kind of scary, but what the heck? They didn't work for me anymore. I didn't care what they really said. The truth is, I really did care what they said, and they knew me so well. I really didn't do great I did not do great on inclusiveness. And I was floored because I consider myself one of the most inclusive, engaging, loving person. Seriously, it's my thing. What do you mean I'm not that inclusive? Or that was one of my lower scores. And it wasn't like major, but I took it personal. Well, come to find out, I had such confidence in my wisdom after 35 years and my vision as to what we needed to get done that I was blowing them away. I did not take the time to include them. And all they told me I really needed to do is to tell them the why I was making the decisions I made, why I was driving towards a vision. At the time, by the way, I was running a $42 million infrastructure transformation program that had to be done in 2 years. It had to be done in 2 years. So yes, I was driving like a maniac. But in the meantime, I was leaving dead bodies behind. And I learned a big lesson from that. So with that, when we kind of go down through, this is with interactive piece. So you got your little charts on your paper that you have in front of you. And, there's not many of you in the room, and I'm fortunate not on the phones. The people that are on the online will just have to play along. Which of these areas do you feel is a strength? Circle it on your paper. And which of these areas do you feel might be an overuse, where you might be using it too much? So just take a moment, half a moment, and do that, because we're going to have to move on, because I created an hour presentation that I into 30 minutes. So we're doing good here. Substance, the same thing. When you look at practical wisdom, confidence, composure, resonance, vision, where's your strength? Where might you be overusing it? And how is it affecting each other? And the same thing with style. Really, to be honest and candid with yourself as to how you are showing up in these characteristics and facets of your style. And now this is where I wish there was more people in the room, but I'm going to ask those that are here if you could kind of pair up and work together. This is a real live client that I changed the names to protect the innocent. He was a strong lead for sure. He had a big responsibility of a large regional hospital chain. And his CEO and board asked me to come in and work with him because though he was technically proficient, though he was knocking it out of the park with functionality, no one wanted to work for him. His attrition was pretty rough, and no one liked him very well, including his stakeholders. So, and they all agreed that he needed to show up as that trusted advisor and strategic partner, as opposed to the bully, because that's how he was showing up. So when we did his assessment, this is what came out. He had some great highs. He was authentic. He had high integrity. People, thought that he was ethical. In confidence, demeanor, and intentionality. Quite frankly, he really looked like the part of a CIO. But his lowest score was actually in restraint and composure, and his resonant and vision. People didn't know, they weren't able to hear, and his interactivity was very low. Those were his lowest, but his lowest was restraint and composure, and then resonance, vision, and interactivity. So flip your page over, please. And I'd like you to spend just a couple of minutes, if you could go to the person closest to you, if you wouldn't mind talking to each other, even if you have to turn around. And if you don't want to do, I'm not going to force you, of course. But it's really interesting just to have a little bit of discussion of answering these questions. I'm going to go back to the high and low so you have them close by. But I think you have them on your sheet, don't you? Did I put them on the sheet? Great. Then I can leave this up there. I'm going to go back for this. I'll leave the questions up here for the sake of the audience that is online. Is on his high and lows, what would he be like to work for? Anyone, just spend a minute. We're just going to spend a couple minutes, and I'm going to ask you to share. And as he looks to show up as a trusted advisor, what is the good news in his EXPI results? What do you see as good? And then as he looked at what facets should he work on improving? If you were him or if you were his coach, what singular facet would you say that he could work on and that would have the most benefit? Because we can't work on all of those things. Most of the things that we could work on is 3 things at a time. It's the magic of 3. And what facet, the 2 big questions, which one should he work on improving and which one might he be working on, might he be overusing? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, that's all, so that we have 5 minutes left to discuss it. I know that's not a lot of time, but it's always best to use your gut when you're looking at this and not be thinking about where you fall, because it's really easy when you're doing this exercise to think about yourself. But think about if this was your boss, your employee, or you. Where would you say is your biggest opportunity? Where you're saying that, oh my gosh, I got to back off on that one. I magically got 2 more minutes, so yay. Thank you. We have a mic for the floor. Okay. So it's going to give you a 30-second warning. All righty. Who has some perspective to share? And if you do, please come up to the little white box. Come on, don't be shy. So you're going to go, the team's going to go up together. I love it. So the answer to the question is
the challenge. I would say that we both agree that you should work on style and then it would be.
There's no right or wrong answer, by the way, but I love the answer you gave because you were able to see the connection point between the other characteristics of your style. And every person has an unlimited number of, I'll call combinations of things. The most important is what is working for you. So, what you said around his interactivity, it could very well be his lack of inclusiveness is showing up as interactivity, as well as, if he would, though he did not have a higher low in humility, through conversation, I would be able to see that, is he arrogant? Does he need to work on this?
The reason I thought inclusiveness was a useful place to start is because that instills that is being taught, whereas something like concern and humility are really more heartfelt.
Yes.
Sometimes it's really helpful for leaders to develop a skill set that then leads them into a path of heart healing
Absolutely.
more easily than trying to start from the heart and develop skills.
Yeah, Nadine, I have a story of that. I was coaching a CIO that I was an advising engagement. So I was on site with her and I could observe how her behavior was. And so one of the things I advised her to do was to get out and walk around let people, because she was a really warm, loving person, but she did not come across that way. And she she started doing this management walking around. And within a few hours, I got lots of people coming to me going, "Oh my God." And she was literally going into cubicles, sitting down and saying, "What are you working on?" And so we kind of regrouped on that one and changed it to having Friday morning coffees. But it's so a lot of times, whatever reason your true self doesn't show up in the workplace. And once she was able to demonstrate inclusiveness as well as interactivity, all of the other challenges that she was having just fell away. It just did. So thank you. Anyone else? What other answers did you come up with? Anyone have a perspective of the exercise that you would be willing to share? Come on. You're hurting my feelings. Okay. Nobody? Okay. That's not going to pressure you, but I'm going to actually use a couple minutes. Does anyone have any questions before I go to the last slides? No? The question is this: a complete characters. There's 90 elements that go behind the 15 facets. And the way the report shows up is this is a 360 degree, a true 360. It's you rate yourself, your manager, your peers, your subordinate, and others. So somewhere around 25 plus people are actually giving you a perspective. And again, you don't share the outcome with anyone but me. And you end up learning from it and we discuss on how you go back and have the conversations with the people who are so gracious to spend 20 minutes rating you. But there's 90 different elements that are assessed. That makes sense? Okay. Now you don't have to. I want to come up here and share this with you if I thought you had to, give me a call in order to execute the survey. That wouldn't be the right thing to do. But first, I want you to understand why executive presence is important for you to understand. One, going back to the picture of the kitty, we all have blind spots. We all, and let's face it, if you go to your team member, or if you go to your peer, even your boss and say, "Hey, what can I do better?" What are they going to tell you? Everything's great. This is an anonymous survey except for your manager. So to get that perspective, and there's 3 open-ended questions that get people to tell you the honest to gosh truth, so that you can know what that mirror looks like is invaluable. But it's your opportunity to get specific, truthful feedback so that you can work towards being that executive who is a trusted advisor and strategic partner. But like I said, has anybody ever heard of the Johari window? And it's a very simple self-guided assessment. If you take the adjectives that I gave you, rank yourself. Is this something that is, I'm open? And you won't be putting many of them in blind spot. I could trust you. But is it something that you hold back from knowing it all? Yeah, you could attempt to assess yourself. You're going to put most of the stuff in open. But if you were to spend some time with folks that work with you and ask them for candid feed forward perspective, you may get some folks to tell you where it really is. So you could see where you are not showing up the way you think you're showing up. So I do advise you to sit down and really think about those adjectives, those 15 facets that you could take that sheet home with you on. And I would say that if there's any laying on a table, or if you want one to take home that's clean that you haven't written on, we have plenty to give out. But then find that trusted confidant. I have to tell you, if you ask your spouse and your kids, you'd be really enjoy the answer you get, maybe. But use a feed forward. Has anyone ever heard of feed forward as opposed to feedback? It comes out of Marshall Goldsmith's work, and it shows up in What Got You Here Won't Get You There, which is a great book still today. But if you're a female, I advise you to read How Women Rise, which is his follow-on book, because he realized he forgot about women in the first book. So with that, is feed forward is a really simple exercise. If I say to you, how did I do? You're going to say, great job, Mary. If I ask you, what could I do better in the future? What should I do different in the future? How can I improve that the next time? You're going to be much more apt to be open-minded and trusting that I'm not going to get mad at you. So it's use the feed forward technique. What can I do to be more of or less of in the future using those adjectives? So this is a way that you could do a self-guided assessment all on your own. But regardless of that, I trust that you've got this. You're all leaders. You're all successful in your own right. All I hope to do here is to give you another tool to use in being even a better version of yourself. So with that, I am out of time. I want to thank you all for your time, and hopefully you have a takeaway from today. I will be here through lunch today, so if you want to sit down and chat with me, please feel free to reach out. Talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.